Yo, it's your boy Dctree from Dctree-Nation.com, where we cover hoops and heroes. And today we're talking hoops. The Spurs season is over, so it's time to give out some grades. And the first person I'm going to start with is DeMar DeRozan. What is his grade for the year? His first year with the Spurs, including the regular season and the playoffs. What grade should we give him for his first year? But before I jump into it, if you like my content, please subscribe to the channel. Okay, starting off with his stats for the year, he did pretty darn good when you really think about it. He was up in points and rebounds and assists over his career averages. He's really worked hard on passing the basketball, and he was a huge part of why the Spurs were so good at three. Penetrate and dish type basketball, the old school Tony Parker way of being relevant when it comes to assists. So he did that pretty darn good. And that's not bad considering this was his first year in the Spurs system, which does have a learning curve, especially for, offensive minded players, gifted players. But he fit right in from the offensive perspective. So that's a good thing. The problem with DeRozan is, though, that he cannot shoot the three, or he decides not to shoot the three, whatever you want to say. And it makes him very predictable. So that's why when he has, when games get tight and he has an off experience, it's because the defender knows, hey, he's never going to take a three, so you can back off on defense, okay? That is a huge weakness for him in today's game. You could get away with that, maybe 5-10 years ago. But now, as a star, offensive star, you have to be able to shoot the three and make defenders pay for lagging off of you. And he can't do that. So it makes it hard for him to be relevant at the end of games. And that's really the major problem with DeRozan. Coming from Toronto fans, Toronto media, that was the criticism of DeMar DeRozan, that he disappears in big games. And we just saw in game 7, first half of that game, he was 1 for 10, couldn't buy a basket. And it's because he doesn't have the versatility from long range. He has to fix that. And that's really going to hurt his grade for the season, because the Spurs aren't, they don't base things off stats. They base things off wins. At the end of the day, to be fair, he has some pretty big shoes to fill when it comes to Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is basically a superstar in the making, and DeMar DeRozan is above an all-star. So it's kind of unfair expectations. But the problem with DeRozan is that the Spurs need someone to close for them consistently. And he makes a lot of mistakes at the end of games. That's not something you can necessarily work on, but you can kind of tweak your game to kind of lessen that effect. He doesn't have the superstar killer instinct, but that three-point shot will help his game and the Spurs overall. All right, so all things considered, I had to give him a B- for the year. And I think that's a friendly grade, because it could easily be a C+. Because you got to remember, the Spurs have a higher standard. You have to be able to close games. You have to be able to end games. The Spurs record didn't even improve a game over last year when they didn't have DeRozan. So that's very telling. So DeRozan has to do more for the Spurs. But because he increased his rebounds and his assists, I had to give him a B-. He did have a couple good games in the playoffs as well. He just fell short in game 7. And I think that's fair for the first year. All right, guys, that's it for this one. For more information on Spurs, check out the main page, Dctree-Nation.com. Like us on Facebook. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Help a brother out. Peace.